What you are about to watch is not just a masterclass on how to make premium short form content. This is not just one video. In order to make this video, I made 6 different free preset packs that you can download at any time. And I made in-depth training videos for each one. So what you are watching is months worth of editing, planning, and passion, all put into one ginormous project that I'm giving away for absolutely free. And why? I'm gonna tell a quick story here, but trust me, it's going somewhere. At age 14, with my brother and some friends, we started a clothing brand. And then that spiraled and turned into a skateboarding company where we were skating the streets and doing the biggest things that we could see. I gave my life to Christ, and at the age of 20, I released my first book. But in reality, those things that seem big on paper, in a business aspect, wasn't bringing me any money, and people weren't reaching out to work with me. And that's why throughout that whole process, I realized the biggest skill that I had and the most value that I could bring to people was video editing. So what I'm trying to communicate is that this is not just a masterclass on how to make premium content. If you choose to put in the work and put in the hours, this could be a life-changing skill that can enable you to chase dreams, to work with people who you want to work with, and to bring more revenue into your business. So I'm not gonna make any crazy promises or anything with this video, but what I will say is that this course is designed to take you from an absolute beginner to a content gangster. So shout out Caleb Ralston for inspiring it, and let's get right in. Right now, you have one of 2 types of content. Number 1 is that your content doesn't stand out and it doesn't look professional. Even if you have a good offer, people don't think that your quality is on tier with your competitors. And because of that, they don't consider it. And number 2 is premium looking content. It gives you instant authority because, well, you look good and you look like you know what you're talking about. Even if your offer isn't the best, your quality is gonna draw in that attention. If you have content type number 1 right now, this course is going to save you hundreds of dollars and time watching countless tutorials on how to get that premium looking content. And odds are, if you have premium content type number 2, you probably don't know how to systemize your content and make it easy to produce. This course is going to show you how to break that barrier and make that content easily and consistently in Adobe Premiere Pro. So here's what we're going to cover. Section 1 is the basics. Section 2 is the editing. And Section 3 is the systemization of your process to make it easy to make time and time again. Here's what this course is not going to do. It's not gonna show you 3D animations. It's not gonna cover After Effects, and it's not gonna cover content strategy and different kind of storytelling tactics. What this course is designed to do is take you from an absolute beginner to somebody who can consistently make high quality content using Premiere Pro. We need to define high quality content so we can move forward with the same understanding. For this course, I'm defining premium short form content as content that is paced correctly, has sound design, has clean effects like zooms, pop-ups, and smooth animations, and has captions that are clean and stand out in a crowd. With these fundamentals, you will be able to make these videos time and time again to deliver value to your audience. My goal was not only to make a course on this subject, but make one that rivals even the courses that I had bought in the past. And I wanted to take that and now make it absolutely free. Why? Because it just delivers the most value to you. This is going to cover the beginner levels to the advanced. So if you want to go ahead and skip ahead to any part of the videos, the timestamps are down below and you can go ahead and do so. So with that being said, let's get right into it. Let's go section 1, which is the basics. All right, so this is step 1. Here we're gonna be covering the basics. When you open Premiere Pro, you're gonna see this window right here, which is the project window. A project is basically a room where your edit lives. Separating your projects, depending on if it's a different style of video or maybe even if it's a different client, could be very helpful. Here in the bottom, you will see recent projects and 2 buttons in the top left to either create a new project or open an existing one from your files. So here, click new project and you'll see this, where you can put your project name, choose where you want to save it, and whether or not you want a template. And for this example, we're not going to use a template. Click create, and now we're going to go into importing your footage. You can skip this step and import your footage later on, but I normally import my footage right away. I've added a folder in the description of this video that has all of the practice footage that we're going to be using, along with some sound effects and different things that are going to help you in this course. So select that folder, or if you're a rebel, just use your own footage, it's all good. Here you can name your sequence and put a language on it. Think of a sequence like a room that lives in the house that is your project. You could have a sequence that's vertical over here, and then you could have a a horizontal sequence over here, and you'll be able to go in between them and still be in the same project. Once everything looks good, click import. When you load in, we're gonna see that Premiere Pro has automatically placed our footage in this area called the timeline. The top right area called program is the screen where you can see your edits in real time. The bottom left is where we can see all our files, including video, audio, and photo files. The top left is the effects controls panel, which is where we will be controlling our effects to our liking. And the top right has things like properties, graphic templates, and effects, which we will be using regularly. All these different windows control different things. If we go into the Windows tab in the top right, we can see all the different types of windows that are offered. In the future, you may need to access some of these, but the ones I mentioned are the ones that we're going to use the most. You can move these boxes around by dragging and dropping their names like this. And very quickly, we're gonna make an organized setup that I have found to be the best and most efficient way to edit. At least for me, everybody has their own style. So first, go to your media bin, and we're going to make 5 different bins. You can do that by clicking this little folder button. Make one titled video, one titled audio, one titled assets, and one titled sequence. This is how I set up my projects. In my opinion, the organization definitely helps because you know where everything is at. So drag each file into their respective bins, and after you're done organizing, we'll go from there. Also, in my assets bin, I make a transitions bin and a frames bin. In my audio bin, I make a bin for sound effects. And in my video bin, I make a bin for B-roll and one for my main video. Fantastic. Now you've both created and set up your Adobe Premiere Pro project file. And now we're gonna learn a little bit more about what we're looking at. Like I said before, the sequence is basically a little room that lives in your project. Premiere Pro will give you a default sequence based on the footage that you gave it, but we can change the settings by going to the top, hitting sequence, and then sequence settings. The most important thing to look at here is the frame rate and the aspect ratio. Cinematic content is usually 24 frames per second, but we set it to 30 frames per second when we're editing. And video for social media is usually 1080 by 1920p. P here just means pixels. The preference is up to you, but I usually like to edit in 1080 by 1920 because the files come out smaller and you can't really tell the difference between the quality. Think about it like this. 4K is big, so if it's on a TV, it's gonna retain the quality. But if it's on something small like a phone, it doesn't have to be so big because the phone is super small. So 1920 is gonna be okay for the phone. However, if you're editing a long form YouTube video that may be playing on a TV one day, I would recommend editing in 4K. Most all setups for editing will work, but if you wanna copy my settings, I'm gonna put them on the screen right now. We can duplicate settings by copy and pasting them in the media bin. And where my editing style differs from a lot of people is I usually will edit different videos under the same project, just under different sequences. This way I can take from another sequence and paste it into my new one. And I can save time on effects that I frequently use. Awesome. Now you know about sequences. The last thing we're gonna learn before we go into actually editing is our tools. Keep in mind that I edit on a Mac. And when I say command for Windows, that means control. And anytime I say option, that means Alt for Windows. These are the tools that you're gonna be using. Everything else that I don't mention, don't worry about it because you're not gonna use it. V is the selection tool, which is the most used. Use this to drag, drop, and move around your clip. C is the cut tool, where you can cut up your clips, and you're definitely gonna be using that. P is the pen tool, which is useful for creating shapes and masks, but other than that, you're not gonna be using it. H is the hand tool, which is useful for moving around your video, but it only moves around the screen that you're editing on. It doesn't actually show up in your edit. T is the type tool, which can be useful for putting text on screen, but thanks to the new auto captions feature, we're not gonna use it that often. Those are the tools, and now we're gonna go over a few helpful things to know about the timeline. Everything on the top side is visual, and everything on the bottom is audio. You can also tell by looking at the left, which says A and V. Delete a clip using Command X. Copy and paste a clip using Command C and Command V. Or just select your clip and drag it while holding the Option button. You can shorten your clips by dragging the edges or using the cut tool and then deleting the part that you don't want. And if you want to shorten either just the video or just the audio, you can hold Option while you drag to shorten just that one part. Move a clip up or down by dragging and dropping it, or by holding Option and clicking the up and down arrow keys. And you can add basic transitions like fading in or out by right-clicking the end of your sequence and hitting Apply Default Transitions. You can add in and out points on your timeline by using I and O, which you can use if you want to export only a section of your video. And if you want to add a marker so that you know where important parts of your video are, click M. You can also zoom in and out of your timeline using the plus and minus arrow keys. And there you go. That was the timeline and how to use the tools inside of it. Congratulations, that was section 1, the basics. Now let's move into section 2, which is actually editing your video. Now that you know what you're looking at and you're very familiar with it, we're going to go ahead and get a quick win by doing what's called an audio sync. So because the practice footage has both an A cam and a B cam plus an audio, how are we going to make sure that they're syncing properly? Now, firstly, we're gonna take out all the videos, photos, and audio that we're not currently using. We're only going to leave our first 2 camera clips and the audio. Put all the clips that we're gonna synchronize in a stack like this, right click, hit synchronize, then synchronize through audio mix. Now that the video and the audio is synced, we're gonna move up the green audio above and delete the camera audio by holding Option and clicking the up arrow. Now that the camera audio is gone, select both the new audio and the video, right click, and then click on link. This is gonna make it so that any cut that you make to the audio is also mirrored on the video. Now with this dead space that you see on the left side of the video, right click it and we're gonna do what's called a ripple delete, and everything else is going to come forward. Next, we're going to get into cutting the video. And if you're using the practice footage that I left in the description, I've made this very easy because there's not a lot of footage that you need to cut. If you're recording your own video or somebody else's video, it's normal that you're gonna have a ton of bloopers. So take out these first 2 parts of the video where I'm checking the mic and stuff like that, and we're gonna be left with the rest of the video. Using the cut tool, cut the video up so that only the parts where I'm speaking stay. You can really easily tell where these parts are by looking at the audio levels and seeing where it goes flat. And here is where you're gonna learn the first advanced technique of the masterclass, which is going to be the J-cut. The J-cut is called that because of the shape that it makes on the screen. So instead of having the 2 audio clips match up like that, directly touching, we're going to drag this audio and put it right there so that they're overlapping a little bit. We're gonna do this by holding the Option key and dragging the video section so that only the video is getting shortened. Then drag the second audio down 1 layer and move it to the left until it's starting where the other one is ending. So let's show you the difference between the normal cut and the J cut. And the awesome part is you've already done it, so take a look. Hey famo, welcome in. This is a normal cut and that was a J cut. Big difference, right? Hey famo, welcome in. This is a normal cut and that was a J cut. Big difference, right? The J cut takes extra effort, but it results in more viewer retention, and it also takes you a step ahead of your competition. Most people aren't gonna wanna do the extra effort, so you taking the time to actually go ahead and do it is going to naturally make your video stand out. And that's what premium is, right? We're taking care of the little details and making sure everything looks very good. So go ahead and take some time and make the J-cut for the rest of the video. My timeline is gonna look like this. And again, if this is something where you wanna edit in a different style, go ahead and make the normal cut. So once you're done making J-cuts for the entire video, next, we're going to make sure that I'm looking at the right camera angle when I'm speaking. So in the camera footage, go ahead and take out the top layer of the camera footage anytime I start looking at the other one. This way, when the viewer's watching and I turn, it always feels like I'm talking to them. Okay, so now our video is cut up. We're gonna do something a little bit challenging. We're going to get into the color grading. If you can learn doing the hard things right away, then all of the easy things are going to be a cakewalk. So we're going to go ahead and color grade this footage. Let's start off by creating an adjustment layer by clicking this little square in your media bin. You can think of an adjustment layer like a piece of glass, or like people say, rose-colored glasses. If I put a pink lens in front of the camera, everything in front of it is going to be pink. And if it's blue, everything is gonna be blue. In the same way, whatever effects that you place on the adjustment layer, say the adjustment layer is moving, everything behind it is going to move. So we're gonna make our adjustment layer and name it color. Next, let's open our Lumetri scope window and put it next to our effects controls. Here we can see what's called the scope, the RGB parade, and the waveform. We're not really gonna be using the waveform, but the scope is the most important one because it's gonna show us where our skin tones are. We're gonna wanna place our skin tones right here in this little line. Next, let's go into this tab called Lumetri Color. And what you'll see is these tabs starting with basic correction. We're gonna do one at a time so that each step of the color grade is gonna naturally build off of each other. We're gonna start by adding what's called our base light. I'm using something called Rec 709 because that is for Sony. But something that you can do is also use the base LUTs that Premiere Pro gives you in this dropdown. Let's duplicate the Lumetri Color effect on the adjustment layer, reset it by hitting this little backwards arrow, and then make all of the next adjustments on that one. So on this new part of the color grade, we're gonna start with the white balance. We do this by going to the white balance dropper and selecting any white that may be in the video. This may be your teeth, a wall, or if you want to bring a piece of paper with you when you shoot, you can put it in front of your camera before you start. Next is the basic lighting. And if you're using your own footage, do it to your liking. For my footage, I'm going to up the exposure slightly. I'm gonna add contrast. I'm gonna drop the highlights, the whites, and my shadows. And once we have a look that I like, I'm gonna move forward. Make sure that you're going slowly and making these adjustments just how you like them. That was basic lighting. Next, we're going to fix the skin tones. So again, duplicate the Lumetri Color effect, hit the reset button, and this time name it curves. Go into the creative tab, and if you have a creative LUT, you can add one here. Here is an example of a Fujifilm style LUT. And I recommend if you're going to use the ones that are already in Premiere Pro, drop the intensity to something like 50 or 25. It'll give you a much more natural feel so that it doesn't look like you just dropped a random LUT onto your footage. Now that that's off, let's go to the curves. The primary curve is where we control our lighting. The left side on the bottom is going to be black and the right side at the top is going to be white. You've probably seen the famous S curve where people bring it in from the left and make it look like an S, making the blacks blacker and the whites whiter. It's a good technique, but we're gonna do something differently. So firstly, make these 3 points and ever so slightly raise the middle one until you get the look that you like. All right, sweet. That looks amazing. Now we're gonna go into the color, which is these 3 graphs. And the goal here is we're going to make our skin tones look natural. Because if we look too green, then we're like the sick emoji. And if we're too pink or orange, we could look like an Oompa Loompa, or we could look like a ripe cherry. So because we know our skin tone is between red and yellow, let's make these points on hue versus hue and hue versus luma by clicking these lines. Now you may be asking, how are we gonna focus on just my skin tones when we have this huge frame? And the answer to that question is we're going to use what's called a mask. So go to your clip, go to the opacity, and use this pen tool to create a triangle on your cheek or wherever you see a patch of your skin. Then set the feather to 0 so that you have a sharp edge on your mask. Our skin tones look pretty good right now, but let's touch them up a little bit. Let's raise the first curve until the line is a little bit more to the right. Then the saucy touch is getting to that second curve and bringing it down. Especially if you have a darker skin tone, this is gonna make sure that your natural color is popping. Okay, so we worked through those 3 steps of the color grade. Now is for my personal favorite part, which is the creative, where we're gonna make the colors pop. I personally don't touch up these wheels that much. In my videos, I go to the basic corrections and I crank up that saturation and I make the tones more warm. I also raise my tones to be a little bit more pink, and then I go to the vignette section and add a vignette around -2. I'm a big believer in leaning in to a certain type of look. I like to think of famous movies like Matrix that leans into green, and Euphoria that leans into being very saturated. A lot of big productions don't play it safe with the colors and they lean into a certain feeling. Next, I just made a quick adjustment to both my top video, making it a little bit brighter, and my bottom video by making it a little bit darker. This way they can both look really similar in the lighting. So there we go. We have the 4 steps of our color grade. And if there's any specific one that you want to change, you can go back and look. You can check your base LUT, your basic correction, your curves, and your creative. Guys and gals, can you believe that? You just did the color grade, which is something that a lot of people say, oh, the color, oh, this, that. You did the hardest step. Bravo. Give yourself a round, give yourself a Dougie, and we're gonna move into the next part, which is the mark zone. So the mark zone for short form content was inspired by Devin Jatho and the Devin zone. This zone shows you exactly where to place yourself, the captions, and the graphics. And I've also added the free training video, which is gonna be over here. So if you want to take a look at why we do this, it'll be right there. Drag it and drop it in, go to the effects controls, set the scale to 50, and click multiply on the blending mode. Blending modes are just that. It's ways that your videos and your photos blend with each other. And this is how people get this trendy text effect where maybe it's like white and blue on one side. So before we start on the mark zone, we're gonna go to all of our footage and set all of the scale to 50%. And let's also put the color adjustment layer above this one, which we're gonna use to do the framing. Next, go to your effects controls and look up the transform effect. Drag it and drop it on. Hit this little timer next to the scale and the position. Also click this box and change the shutter angle to 360. This is gonna give us that smooth motion blur. The first thing we're gonna do is scale up on our adjustment layer to 188 so that our video fills the frame again. Then move the position of your video until the eyes are on the line. Then with the keyframes, make sure that all of the rest of the videos are aligned properly with the zone. And this is just a disclaimer, you don't have to track every single frame of the video. Just make sure that the viewer can always focus on the speaker and that the eyes are around the line. Once you're done with that, select your first 2 keyframes, right click it and set them to ease out. Then select the rest of your keyframes and put ease in. This will make it so that your animation isn't completely linear. It eases in and eases out, so it makes it smoother for the viewer to watch. Totally tubular, dude. You have placed the mark zone and your video is tracked the whole way through. You now have the color and you have the framing correctly. Next, we're gonna go into the juicy effects. Get into effects. Okay, so the first effects that we're gonna cover are the crash zooms. And the zooms are crucial because they can take a still shot like this and bring the viewer in, or go ahead and push the viewer out. Get an adjustment layer like before and place it on your timeline above your video. Now drag and drop the transform effect on. The first one we're going to make zoomed in and scaled up. So bring the scale to 120. Take your second keyframe and set the scale back to 100. Right click and set these keyframes to ease out and ease in. Then click on this down arrow and adjust what's called the curves. The curves control the speed in which the animation occurs. And a good rule of thumb is to have these roller coaster curves. That's what I like to call them because it starts fast and it ends slow. So here for the scale animation, we're gonna make it start fast and end slow. Make sure for all of your movement animations, you're adding motion blur, which we do by clicking off on the composition shutter angle and setting the new shutter angle to 360. For the zoom out effect, make sure to save it as a preset for all your future needs. Right click it, save as a preset, and then pin it to the end point. Then put a name and a description if you want. Also for this video, I've put together a free pack of over 70 of these different kind of movement animations. It's my free gift to you, and it also comes with the free training. So if you want to watch that free training video, it's gonna be somewhere over here. Now, let's get into our next zoom in animation. We're gonna duplicate our adjustment layer by holding Option and dragging it. We're gonna place it here and then extend it a little bit. Now click on it and let's go to the transform effect. We're gonna change up these keyframes. Set the beginning point to 100, the second point to 115, then make a third point at the end and set it back to 100. Let's change up this curve and extend our keyframe so it looks like this. Perfect. Now we're ready to go and you have a smooth zoom in and zoom out effect. Now you've done your first 2 movement effects, it's time to animate this epic picture of a monkey that I've put in your course pack. So drag and drop the photo of the monkey. I like to add rounded edges and a shadow to my photos by getting the roughen edges effect, setting the border to 50, the sharpness to 10, and the fractal influence to 0. However, you can make it as round as you want. Now we're going to add a drop shadow. Set the opacity to 60 and the distance to 13. Then crank up that softness. This time, drag and drop the transform effect onto your image. Add your motion blur, then add keyframes for position, scale, opacity, and rotation, like this. We're going to make 4 rows of keyframes. One at the very beginning, one in the middle where we want the photo to appear, the third point where we want it to stop, and the last point when it animates off of the screen. Go to your first point and drag the position down until it's off the screen. Leave the second point how it is because that's where we want the monkey to be in the center of the screen. Then go to the next point and move the scale up. However, you're gonna see a problem, and that's that the photo is not scaling from the center. It has this weird diagonal scale. If this ever happens, copy the effect that you have so far, take it off of the photo, then nest the photo by right-clicking it and clicking Create Nest. Paste your effect back on the nested version of your photo, and it will be scaling directly from the center. Once your photo is scaling from the middle again, go to the third row of keyframes and set your scale to 110 and your rotation to 2. Then go to your last row of keyframes and drag the positioning up until the photo is out of the frame. Let's move the scale and the rotation on the second and third keyframes so that they start a little bit before the position. And now let's adjust the curves so that it looks smooth. Then make the in and out roller coaster curves for the in and the out animations. Now you have a stunning animation that animates both in and out. A quick pro tip that I like to do when I'm animating a photo is adding a black and blurry background so that the viewer can focus easily on what's being placed in front of them. Do this by grabbing your adjustment layer and setting it beneath your image. Drag the brightness and contrast effect and the Gaussian blur effects onto it. Set 4 rows of keyframes for both, 2 on the left side and 2 on the right side. Leave the first one how it is, then set the blur to 50 and the brightness to -50 on the second keyframe. Do the same thing for the third row, leave the fourth one how it is, then right click on your first 2 keyframes and then add the ease in for the rest of the keyframes. And now you have this juicy black blurry background that you can use for all of your videos. I actually have a pack called the Creators Presets Pack, which is another free gift for you. It has a ton of effects that are useful for creators, these backgrounds, face cams, stuff like that. If that sounds interesting to you, the link is down below, and the free training video is gonna be over here for you to watch. Okay, epic. You just finished 2 effects and you learn how to make pop-ups on your video. Next, what we're gonna do is add some cinematic B-roll. So let's grab one of the vertical cinematic frames from my free frame pack, then set the scale to 50 and add a Gaussian blur on it and set that blur to 50. Save it as a preset and name it frame blur. Now let's add the B-roll that I put in the practice footage. Take out the audio. Now let's slide that B-roll under the frame and change the scale and positioning so that it's in the center. Now to make the transition smooth between the normal shots and the B-roll, we're gonna add these film burn or light leak transitions, however you wanna call them. And I have, you guessed it, a free pack, and it also comes with that free training. I've added 2 of these transitions into your course pack, so just use these 2 practice transitions that you're gonna see there. Drag them and put them all the way up above all of the other videos. Then set the scale to 50, rotate it by -90, and add the blending mode screen onto it. Then slide them here in between the first clip and where the B-roll starts. A seamless transition that covers the cut. Now that you have your cinematic B-roll in there, it's time to do the impossible. Rotoscoping is important because everything so far that we've been doing has been in front of the subject. When we rotoscope, we allow ourselves to put something in between us and the background, putting it behind the subject. And just a quick disclaimer here, this video is being made late 2025. I've heard news of different updates that may be coming to Adobe Premiere Pro where they have something that's called the object mask, which is pretty much just a rotoscope in Premiere Pro. If you're watching this in the future and that update has came out, just use that tool so that you don't have to go into After Effects. However, for this course, we're gonna go in, we're gonna slay the dragon, we're gonna ride the donkey, we're going into After Effects, and we're gonna rotoscope the OG way. So firstly, let's start by exporting the section of the video we're gonna want to rotoscope. Why? Because we want our color grade to be on it. Set in and out points on the video where you want your rotoscope to begin and end. Also hide the transition we used above it by clicking this little eye on the left of the timeline. Then export it by hitting Command M, clicking this match source button to set the dimensions, then turn on both render at maximum depth and use maximum render quality. Click export, then once it's done, put it back in the timeline and align it to your endpoint. Cut everything beneath it out and move it down with the Option and down arrow. Next, turn the transition above it back on by hitting the eye again. Clear your in and out points, then right click on the new video and go to Replace with After Effects Composition. This is gonna open After Effects and tell you to give it a project name and just name it something to do with practice. It's gonna open After Effects and it's gonna look like this. It looks like a lot of mumbo jumbo and hoopla, but don't worry, don't feel overwhelmed. I'm just gonna show you what you need to know to do the rotoscope. In After Effects, we're going to double click on our clip and go into the roto brush tool. Make sure you're on the first frame of your clip. Next, select the subject, which in this case is me, by clicking and making sure the pink line is around my body and hair. You can take things off of your selection by holding Alt and clicking, and you can make your brush bigger by holding Shift and clicking and dragging. Now hit Option W to get to the Refine Selection brush. Here you're going to go around the edge of your selection and make sure it looks good. Then hit spacebar to let your video play out. It will start to render out the frames of your video, and if you see that your selection is getting messed up at any point, you can stop the rendering and make tweaks like I'm doing here. Then once it's done, hit freeze to lock in your selection. Fantastic! Roto brushing is easier than you thought. So duplicate this clip by hitting Command D and going into your effects, find the roto brush effect and delete it using Command X. Now you have a bottom clip, which is the background, and you have the top one, which is just your subject. This will allow us to place a photo in between and pretty much make a photo sandwich. Let's double click here next to the files to add our photo, which has tastefully been made to be tralalero tralala. Next, place him in between the subject and the background and scale him up. Now we're gonna animate him just like we did in Adobe Premiere Pro. Drag the transform effect onto the frame and open effects and transform. Then add keyframes to the scale, position, and rotation. Set a second row of keyframes and adjust the photo so he takes up the background. Add 2 more rows of keyframes, one where he will start to leave and the last point for the end. Go to the first row of keyframes and drag the position down until he is no longer in the frame. No need to tweak the second one, and on the third one, keep the position the same and put the scale up to 188 and add a rotation of -7. Fantastic. Now drag the position down on the last frame so that he animates back out. Next, select the keyframes and click this little graph button to edit the speed graphs. If your graphs don't look like this in yellow, you may be editing what's called the value graphs, which look like this. To fix this, go to the little button and make sure you select speed graph. Next, let's make our awesome roller coasters on the first frame and the last frame. Then nudge the rotation and scale keyframes so that they start before the position and end slightly after the position. Next, let's click this little box next to our clip name to add some motion blur. Congratulations, you just made a rotoscope in After Effects. So now let's go back into Premiere Pro and do the final touches. You're probably asking, where are our captions? Captions are a crucial part of the short form content, so let's go ahead and do it. We do this by opening the text panel next to our effects controls and going to transcript. If you're in a new project, hit generate transcript. When doing this, you can choose to make it a different language, or you can choose to generate it only at the in and out points, which is useful if you're generating a new transcript only for a section of your sequence. Click this little CC and it will take you to this screen where you can choose a style and how long you want your captions to be. If you were doing long form content, these sections would be fine. But since we're doing short form content, let's take these sliders and put them all the way to the left and also change the lines from double to single. You have made your captions. They look all weird and not how we want them to. That's because we don't have a style on them yet. So highlight all of your text and go into the properties channel. For this first style, we're gonna set the font to impact and put it in the middle by clicking this little square. Then we're gonna set the size to 100. Next, let's add a color, which we can go into by hitting this square. Instead of making it a solid color, make it a gradient by clicking this tab and going to linear gradient. Now make 2 points and make the start white and the bottom a light gray. Now drag this shape to the right, and awesome, now you have some depth to your captions. You can also add a stroke here if you want, but we're gonna add a drop shadow with these settings. Also, I'm gonna make all the letters capital by hitting this TT button under font. Amazing, our text looks fantastic. Now, let's go into the media bin in the assets section and save this as a future text style, so we can use it in our different projects without making it from scratch. The right text style can draw in attention, it can emphasize different words, and it just makes the video look more premium depending on where you use them. So I've created a textiles pack of over 70 different textiles inspired by some of the biggest content creators in the game. This captions pack also includes animations for your text. So if you want the captions pack, it's gonna be down below. And if you want to see the free training on how to use it, it's gonna be over here or over there. Back to the captions. Now that the captions look how we want them to, let's go through our video and fix any typos that may have happened in the text panel. And premium means looking at the details. And I personally don't like to have my text on screen when there's a pop-up or when there's a graphic going on. So when the graphics pop up, let's select them and delete them with Command X. Next, let's do the same for the B-roll and tralalero tralala. Next, let's select all of our captions and hit the graphics tab and click upgrade from captions to graphic. Now that they've gone from orange to purple and they're a graphic, we can add an animation on them. And the animation is part of the thing that makes our captions stand out. So drag the transform effect onto the caption, add a motion blur, and add keyframes on the position and opacity. Go forward 4 frames and add another row of keyframes. Let's go to the first row and drop the opacity to 50 and raise the position slightly. Let's ease these keyframes out on the first ones and ease into the second ones. This will add a simple drop-in animation with a fade for your captions. Save it as a preset, pin it to the end point, and then drag and drop it onto all of the other captions. We want clean text animations like Apple and other brands. So again, if you want text animations, they're gonna be in the captions pack, link down below. Go ahead and get it for absolutely free. Now, the last little detail I like to add to my captions is fading them out when the captions are gonna be ending. So drag and drop the transform effect onto one of the last captions and add a keyframe at the very end and 4 frames before. Make the opacity 0 at the last keyframe and easy ease out of the first keyframe and into the last. Remember to save it as a preset, pinning it to the end, and use this preset for the rest of the captions that end. Okay, awesome. We have our captions all the way throughout our video. Now let's do what I like to call the captions hook. This is where we use the first few captions of our video to grab the viewer's attention and to make an aesthetically pleasing frame that we can put on the profile grid. Then that profile grid will look pleasing on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, and everything that you may be using. For those in the LinkedIn dungeon. I'm just trolling. So to do this, make a staircase with the first few captions. Then once you're on the last one, organize them on the screen using the position. You can change up the font or style to make a word or two stand out. I've made a template that is in your practice folder that includes a shiny text effect that I made in After Effects. To use these templates, I like to make a new sequence where I can add these templates. So make a new sequence by copy and pasting your original, then delete everything in it. You can install this template by going to the graphics templates section and clicking this little button that looks like a TV, then importing the file from where you saved it. It's a graphics template, so you can change the text in the effects control. Let's change the text, font, and size, then change the color to red by adjusting the gradient. Let's move this lighting effect to a place that makes it look aesthetic. And let's make some room for this text to animate. Then let's animate the text with the chill slide in preset from my captions pack. Let's adjust the text so they come in as I speak. Then let's extend them so they all end at the same time. Here, let's add the chill slide down effect onto it. Now your video is looking crazy. Your video is done, at least on the look. Now we're gonna go into the juicy sound design to take the video to the next level. As someone who started editing through skate videos, I really see the value in using good music. We direct emotion with music, build tension, release it, and amplify feeling. So let's go ahead and use it. The most important sound effects for us that we're gonna be using are going to be our whooshes and our memes, right? So our Vine Boom, our Taco Bell. So how I get my sound effects is looking them up on YouTube and downloading them using this website titled YTMP3. Because of this, I have created a library of my sound effects, whooshes, booms, memes. There's over 300 plus in the library, and it's another gift to you. So if you wanna download my free sound effects library, plus the free training that goes along with it, video will be right here and the link will be down below. And for the music, I usually just like to download either a royalty-free beat if I'm making an ad, or if it's a video that's not gonna be an ad, I can use different kind of popular music, stuff like that. So both the sound effects and the song are gonna be in your practice file already ready to go for you. Go to your audio folder and drag your favorite whooshes onto your timeline. Bring your whooshes to your pop-ups and to Tralalero and carefully place them so they match the animations. I've also added UI sound effects that I like to use to emphasize different parts of the video. So add those too. Let's add a Vine Boom, a Taco Bell sound, and an anime wow from the pack. A way that we can level up our sound design is using a headphones muffled effect. You can do so by adding a low pass filter from the effects and setting it to 1500. Then save it as a preset for your future needs. Next, let's go through the video and make sure our sounds aren't too loud by taking the decibels down anywhere from -10 to -20. Next, let's add our song and make sure it starts and ends where we want it. Let's set the decibels to -30 so it's playing in the background and not making our voice fight for the audience's attention. Let's also cut out the mid frequencies of this song by adding the de-esser effect to your music, clicking edit, and cutting out the mid frequencies like this. The reason we do this is because our voice naturally rests in this mid frequency section. So adding the cut here on the music will naturally add clarity to what we're saying. Ladies and gentlemen, that was our sound design, and I take my hats off to you. Why? Because you've completely edited a video how I do mine. Hey famo, welcome in. This is a normal cut, and that was a J cut. Big difference, right? Firstly, let's throw on some color, and then make sure that I'm placed in the mark zone. For the first fun part, we have some on-screen pop-ups, and we can direct the viewer's attention. Next, let's go into some cinematic B-roll, whether it be from my iPhone or my camera. It's still looking pretty sweet. Back to normal. Now we're in tralalero tralala. Now for the cherry on top, the captions. We can go like this and put on some style and an animation. Lastly, we go into the sound effects. Throw those on, and now you have some premium looking short form content. Now you can use all of these tricks for your own content and clients, whoever that may be. All right, guys, have fun with this. Peace out. God bless. Granted, I like to put different effects every now and then in my videos, but you have the same foundation. So you should totally be proud of yourself It's all about taking that first step, and then we can add on to it. We can take different risks and we can experiment. Okay, sweet. We've edited the video, but now there's two more things that we gotta go over. We gotta go over how to export the video, and then after we're going to go into the third and final section of this video, which will be systemizing. So let's cover exporting the video real quick. Hit Command M and it will bring you to the export window, or just click here next to edit. Once you're here, set your dimensions with the match source button. Then just like before, make sure you check these boxes for maximum depth and resolution. Make sure the export is set to VBR 1 pass at 20. This time add an effect and add the QT gamma compensation LUT that I've added for free in your course pack. This will stop your export from changing any of the color grading that you worked so methodically hard on. If you didn't color grade the video that you're working on, there's no need to have this here. Next, make sure you're exporting the right parts of your video. Then add a name for your export and set the location you want it to be in. Hit export, wait a little bit, and then Yahoo! You did it! 6, 7! I'm just oh, that's hilarious. All right, guys. So you did it. Good stuff. You are an absolute legend. You committed to something and you saw it through. You completed both section 1, which was the basics, and section 2 of this course, which is the editing. Now let's take a look into section 3, which is systemizing your content. Section number 3 is systemizing. Systemizing is what takes video editing from time consuming to easy. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that most people take a very long time to realize that this is even a potential step. So learning how to systemize your content right from the beginning is going to save you years of time and experience. So the first thing we're gonna do is save presets and text styles, which we've already kind of done before. Save a preset by selecting your effects and right-clicking. Then click Save Preset, give it a name, and see whether you want to set it to the in point, the out point, or if you want it scaled throughout. I recommend setting it to the in or the out point if you have keyframes. If you scale it, it's going to scale your keyframes and your animation is gonna look different. Next, make yourself an organized bin where you can add things like animations, ins, outs, and any other effects like blurs. If you want to sell your presets, you can save them here in the effects panel and then sell them as a digital product online. Selling your presets can actually be very useful to people because if they're a beginner starting out, you can help them save the time. It can level up their content and you can, get some money from the digital product. So it's a win-win on both sides. So now that you have your effects and animations saved as presets, you can use them over and over again and save your time. Next are your text styles. Firstly, I go into my media bin, I go into my assets, and then I create another bin titled Captions. When I'm in my Captions bin, I spend some time making and saving text styles here by using the Create Text Styles button. I click it, then I select both Save to Local Drive and Save to Project. If I click Save to Project, they will immediately pop up in my media bin. Then once they're there, I can easily drag and drop them onto my text and instantly make a stunning looking caption. If you saved it onto your local drive, your text style will immediately save onto your computer as a .pr text style file. You can organize these and share them with your team so everyone can have the same text styles. This is how I made my text styles pack, which has over 73 different text styles that you can go ahead and download at any time. So that was saving both presets and text styles. Now we're going to go into saving your sequences. If I have a video type that I know that I'm gonna make again, I'm not gonna start from scratch. I'll start in the same project file and either make the new video on the same timeline and use the in and out points to export only that certain part, or I'll go into my sequences bin, duplicate the one that I know I want to use again, then go into that, keep the assets that I want to keep, and delete the rest of the video. This allows me to save things like sound effects, pop-ups, and hooks that I otherwise would have had to make from scratch and take a little extra time. For example, here you can see that I can use my whole cinematic section again with the frame and the transitions and only change the B-roll. And now I have a completely new B-roll section that I made in half the time. Let's go into some cinematic B-roll, whether it be from my iPhone or my camera. It's still looking pretty sweet. Back to normal. Now, my back. That was saving the sequences. Next is saving the hooks, which is something that I had briefly mentioned. These text hooks can be time consuming to make and set up, and we want our editing process to be hassle-free. So if you have a hook that you like, you can reuse it by either copy and pasting the sequence like last time, or just copy and pasting that little part of the hook. And you can tweak up the text here in the text panel, and before you know it, you have a brand new text hook. Change up the animations, change up the color of the text, change up the fonts. It's all up to you, and you can make these hooks in half the time. Next is batching content. If I'm going into an editing session where I'm extracting multiple clips from a long form video, I'll make them all at the same time and on the same step. That way, when I'm done editing one of them, I'm done editing them all. And I'm not confused on which step I'm at for which video. Batching content has made it very easy for me to be consistent and efficient when I'm making videos for clients and my own personal stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the masterclass. You've now learned how to go from absolute beginner to content gangster. You now know how I make videos that communicate quality and professionalism. Practice these fundamentals time and time again and improve with each video you make. And before you know it, people will be asking you, oh, how do you edit your videos? Now, if you took a crack at all of that and thought, man, how am I ever gonna get all these videos done? That's where I come in. In the description of this video, you'll see a link where you can work with me one-on-one. Either I can personally edit your videos myself, or if you are an editor or already have an editor for your team, I can consult you and tell you where and how your videos can be improved. And the reality is, I'm only one big, super strong Latino man. I'm not gonna be able to work with everybody one-on-one. And that's why I made this masterclass, so that you can see my exact process and know how you can do the same that I do. So if you got value from it, please consider sending it to a video editor friend, or maybe a business owner that is trying to scale their business using video editing. Remember, you got this. I'm rooting for you, and I know that you can and will be successful. Above all else, may God bless you guys. You guys have a good day. Bye.